I believe that there's only two life purposes: increase the awesome or decrease the suck. You want to kind of think, which one do you naturally lead towards, right? And I think that that's a moving towards or moving away from mentality type thing, and neither one is better than the other. But I think that would be the first step. And after that, you want to think like, what is my chosen modality? One mistake that I made when I was young is I assumed that my life purpose was to become a martial arts instructor. And I actually talked to one of my old martial arts instructors, and I explained to him, like, now that my purpose is gone, like, what do I do? And he said, well, what's the thing that you love about martial arts? And I said, well, there's this look in somebody's eyes when they go from knowing, not just thinking, but knowing that they can't do something, to realizing that they just did. He's like, well, you don't need to do martial arts to do that. And I was like, oh yeah.
All right. So welcome to a Heroes Academy podcast. This is Jonathon Dugan, and we help everyday leaders that want to actualize on their goals and their potential through practical spirituality and learning from other everyday heroes as well. So today we have Ono, and he is an author of the Shard Chronicles trilogy right now, and he's working on 3 more books right now. And how I met him is actually through impact theory, through Tom Bilyeu. So he is someone I look up to with a growth mindset, and he has a 7-year-old son, and that he is a great example as a father and an entrepreneur at the same time. He spends a lot of his time in investing, and it's really a breath of fresh air to have him on this podcast. So welcome to the show, Ono.
Well, thank you, Jonathan. That was the best intro I've had thus far. So thank you for that.
Cool. Well, glad to hear it, man. I really think highly of you. I've been around in your circle for, I would say, 2 years, 2.5 years, maybe at this point, ever since Impact Theory University started. And we're attracted to the same human being. And this guy is an beast when it comes to work ethic and actually wanting to make a difference in the world. And he's also in the same space that you are of mindset entertainment. And so you've wrote 3 books. That is a nonfiction type of storyline that is supposed to build a growth mindset. So for people that are listening right now, what is mindset entertainment?
Nice. So it's a fictional series called The Shard Chronicles, and it stars Steve Jang, who is a ex-military who loses his legs. And it's an action urban fantasy, so you can imagine how creative he has to be with the action scenes, considering his situation. And then on top of that, he finds out, without giving away too many spoilers, he believes that magic is real, and he experiences it firsthand. And this leads him down a path of intrigue and destruction, I would say. So he deals with PTSD and things like that. But there's also, there's a surprising amount of mindset, as you mentioned, crammed into the book. I like to say I get a seminar's worth into each series or into each book. So yeah, I'm very proud of it. The next 3. People are going to have to wait. I write a book per year, but they're going to have to wait on that because the next trilogy is a nested storyline, and so as a result, they all have to be written at the same time. So I am still writing a book per year, but they're going to take 3 years to come out. So my apologies for the delay.
No, man, it's pretty phenomenal. So I also wrote a book this year, and the final product that I have is 225 pages, which I feel like I'm very happy with. That's successful for myself. And, I have your Awakening book right here, and it's about 365 pages. And so to be able to accomplish 1 book a year of that magnitude takes an immense amount of discipline. And so I'm really curious in that, how have you been able to develop this type of discipline in your everyday routine to consistently write that amount of story every day to receive a book a year?
Yeah, that's a good question. I think that the primary reason is clarity. really having a very clear long-term goal that is very exciting. Like I literally like flip out of bed in the morning. Like I can't wait to get up, and I get up pretty early, but that's when I can get my writing done because everyone else is still asleep. Um, and so I'd say that's like the main driver is, I really, really want to. Now, that doesn't mean that I always want to write, because the first 30% of the book is really, really hard, because I it's very difficult not to compare it to the previous book. And the previous book is all edited and polished, and it's been through all these beta readers and stuff. So it's this like, shined up, beautiful thing. And then you look at this like pile of random plot lines and, spelling mistakes and everything. And I go, did I forget how to write? And so, yeah, the first chunk is always difficult. So usually that's about 3 to 4 months of grind. With this next book, so book 4, it was more like 7 months of grind, because it's a nested storyline. So that means I'm writing 4 books at the same time, basically, and it's 3.5 books at the same time. So it's really, really mentally very cluttering and very difficult to get over. So I have. I would say the other thing that I do is I use the term a slider bar. So in a video game, you can use a slider bar to, your height or your size or your strength or whatever. So I use that for my goals, where I think like, okay, I want to have, eventually I want my book series to be an animated series, and I want it to run for 15 years, because that's how long it takes to adjust a cultural zeitgeist. So if I have a 15-year running TV show, I need approximately 15 books. And so if I'm writing a book per year, that's 15 years. If it takes another 15 years for the book series or for the animated series to be done, that's 30 years. And so I look at that and I go, if I take a day off or something, that I have to adjust that. And I either have to be honest with myself and say I have a 30-year goal, or I don't. And I do. So that's why I write every day.
And I think that's really, really important, right? Because if you have a map in front of you and you just travel, you can end up anywhere. But if you put a point in destination down towards your future, you're able to have a pinpoint of what path you need to take and what routine you need to make in your day, and what habits do you need to have, and the things you need to learn and develop in, and what you need to, what kind of income you need to have to execute on a goal of that magnitude. 30 years. For me, I want to help the people to understand that are on those early years of their life, that they're just understanding that perhaps they can create a lifestyle that they desire. Maybe they haven't even considered their passion or their purpose. How do you even start to talk about a 30-year goal? Like, what is the first step for someone like that to actually manifest the idea of a 30-year goal? Because I think a lot of people need that type of direction in their life, but they don't even know what their purpose or passion is.
Yeah, that's a great question. I think there's lots of ways of figuring out what your purpose is. For me, I believe that there's only 2 life purposes: increase the awesome or decrease the suck. That's it. So you want to pick like one of those. And it doesn't mean it has to be 100% that. Like you can have like 80% increase the awesome and 20% decrease the suck if you want to, right? It doesn't have to be, but you want to kind of think, which one do you naturally lead towards, right? And I think that's, a moving towards or moving away from mentality type thing. And neither one is better than the other. But I think that would be the first step. And after that, you want to think like, what is my chosen modality? One mistake that I made when I was young is I assumed that my life purpose was to become a martial arts instructor. And when martial arts instructing was no longer an option, I felt listless and purposeless. Like I all of a sudden didn't have a purpose. And plants either grow or they die. And I started playing a lot of Skyrim and not doing anything, right, and sleeping in and all this stuff. And I actually talked to one of my old martial arts instructors, and I explained to him, like, now that my purpose is gone, like, what do I do? And he said, well, what's the thing that you love about martial arts? And I said, well, there's this look in somebody's eyes when they go from knowing, not just thinking, but knowing that they can't do something, to realizing that they just did. And for me, that's like, the sun is for Superman. Like, I could live off of that, like, it's just, that's my jam. And he's like, well, you don't need to do martial arts to do that. And I was like, oh yeah. Right. And like, it took me a while to figure out, but like, yeah, you can do that in any medium. And I've always enjoyed telling stories. And writing was something that I enjoyed doing. I wasn't very good at it, but I enjoyed doing it. And so I just thought, well, maybe I could, write a book. And that's kind of how it started. And, it was an uphill battle, but eventually I kind of developed some skill. And, it's 5 stars on Amazon, so it must be doing something right now. But like, yeah, it was a process. So for somebody like trying to find their passion, that's like the short version, I would say, is increase the awesome or decrease the suck. And then within that, pick a problem to solve. There's actually a magic system in the book series that abbreviates to C3GUS, which is 3 C's, a G, a U, and an S. And what they stand for is certainty, connection, contribution, growth, uncertainty, and significance. So if you have no idea what it is you want to do, then you can pick one of those and you can say, how can I increase that for the world? And that'll get you started. Certainty, right? Do you wish that everybody felt safer? Do you want to, I don't know, fund the police force? Do you want to, stop terrorism? Whatever, right? Increase certainty, right? Run an insurance company, whatever, right? Connection, right? Do you want to create like a dating site, or do you want to just make everybody feel like they're more connected by being like a family therapist, like whatever, right? You can find that. Certainty, connection, contribution, right? Do you want to run like a charity, or do you want to encourage more people to go to charities, or do you want to like find live in a old age home and talk to them and communicate with them and give that way, right? Growth, do you want, which is one of mine, right? I believe that people only reach for the branches that they can see. So if they know that those branches are there, they will reach for them. And much like Tom, who believes that your zip code should not determine your future, he's right, it shouldn't. And so, if you facilitate growth as early as possible, which is very difficult to do, because when you're young, you don't seek growth, not naturally. It's not until you're about 26 that you realize that you're a dumbass. Until then, you think you're pretty good. And so to get it a little bit younger, that was kind of the premise behind my book series, was like, could I do that? Because when I was a martial arts instructor, I wrote a self-development book and the kids all read it. And like a decade, because I was a superhero to them, right? And like a decade later, they still send me emails like, your book changed my life. I'm writing, I'm making $1 million and all this stuff. Like, they're great, right? So I was like, oh yeah, this is my thing. I'll write self-development books. And so I tried to publish the self-development books to other people, and nobody read them, right? Because they were aimed at kids, and kids don't want to read self-development books, right? And I realized that like it was because I was a superhero to these kids that's why they were reading it. I also told them to eat their vegetables, and they did that too, right? And so that's why the thesis behind my book series was like, could I have everything that a teenager wants? Sex, violence, car chases, explosions, and self-development. Could I do that? Turns out yes. So growth, right? That's a one that I'm very passionate about. Uncertainty, which is like variety, right? Excitement. Do you want to be I don't know, like a surfing instructor, or do you want to be a person who creates variety in people's lives? Like, I'm like I would totally get this service, like something that just like surprises your wife randomly and you get the credit. Like, that would be great. Just something where it's just like a variety type thing, which is what I struggle with. That's probably my lowest need. And then like significance, right? Do you think that people would do better things if they believed in themselves? Right. And so you can just pick one of those 6, and that'll get you started. But yeah, there's lots of ways to find your passion. One question that I would suggest not asking is, what would you do if you knew you could not fail? Because I hate that question. I think it's a garbage question. Like, what would you do if you knew you couldn't fail? I don't know. Cure brain cancer on the first try. Right. I go to Vegas and roll the dice a bunch of times and win every time, right? Like, of course you're going to fail, right? So instead, I would say, what would you do if you knew you would fail? And then, yeah, do that. Because would you dance if nobody was watching? Like, cool, do that. So I know it's a long answer, but that would be my answer.
No, I love it, man. And I'm right there with you. It's a big way that I changed my life was asking the question is what would I love to do every day if money wasn't an issue, wasn't even part of the equation? What do I love to do for fun? What do I enjoy doing? Getting really good at that. And then you can talk about monetization after that. Like, how do you make money after that? Because the thing is like, we do need money, unfortunately, in this world that we live in. So that is very necessary, but that's way after understanding what purpose and passion is, because in that, it never does feel like work. For you to write a book a year, I know that you have a passion towards this. So if you're looking to grow kids and you're a karate instructor and that you were writing personal development books for them and it changed their lives, it obviously hit you in your heart in a way that it was just like, what if I can scale this message towards so many people and actually make a difference?
Yes.
It will fuel me every single day, and I will wake up for that endlessly.
Yes.
I love it. Yeah. And that's what a true influencer and someone that wants to make a difference in the world is. I love it, man. And so in that, I would say if you still did, I'm curious how long ago that was that you're already writing personal development books for kids was, because I bet today is different because now parents are more into personal development. So they would want to buy these books for their kids, even if their kids don't read it. I would say that the market is actually probably broader than it is when you were doing that. So how long ago was that you're actually writing that for your kids?
So I write I write a self-development book every 10 years. So the first one I wrote when I was 24. The next one I wrote when I was 34. So I am 42 now. So I guess in 2 years I better get on that and write another one. And the reason I write them every decade is for my child, because if I die, he won't know all the stuff that I know, and he won't. I have a theory that has been proven true. It's much easier to learn from somebody in martial arts who's like one belt above you than it is to learn from somebody who's like 10 belts above you, because the person who's 10 belts above you, they take so many things for granted. They forget what it's like to be you. So it's much easier to learn if you're 14 to learn from a 20-year-old. But then when you're 20, you want to learn from a 30-year-old. And so that's why I write it every 10 years. So it's like read in order. And so, yeah, the first book was called The Key to Awesome because how that started was the kids kept asking me, how did you get so awesome? And so I'm like, that is a long answer. And so I wrote the book for them. I'm like, this is what I did. And then, yeah, the next one I wrote is just called This Is Everything I Know. And it's much bigger because I was much older.
Well, it's because it's everything that you know. I hope that it's a big book at that point,
Yeah, it's about the same size as Redemption in my Shard Chronicles. It's a good one. My editor laughs because I tell him I make them all different sizes so that if people's coffee tables are uneven, then they have one for each side. So
I love it. I love it. So for your son that's 7 years old right now, it sounds like you had success in speaking into these young men and women that are just getting into this journey. That a lot of us, when we're younger and we're playing sports, we don't realize that sports is personal development. It's self-help. It's understanding growth mindset. It's understanding discipline and how to get after a goal and execute that goal, right? And so it sounds like you're very successful in the students that you had in your martial arts class. How do you implement that type of teaching or coaching towards your 7-year-old son? How do you get through to them? Because sometimes the ones that are closest to us are the ones that least hear the messages that we have.
Yeah, I think that it'll probably be a challenge once he is a teenager and he realizes that I'm not a superhero. But in the early years, it was much, or it still is much easier because you know Kung Fu Panda meditates, and so it's I find that I can link it to the flavor of the month. Like when he was 3 and 4, it was Iron Man. He wanted to be Iron Man. And I was like, okay. So I bought him an engineering textbook. And it's like a university engineering textbook. And I said, here you go. So that is the instruction book on how to build an Iron Man suit. And he's just like, I can't read this. And I'm like, oh, all right, I'll teach you. And he's like, okay, cool. And so he learned to read, right? And he is 7, and he is reading. The other day, some grade 5s came into his class, and he was helping them read. Like, he's an incredible reader. He's and it's like, oh, you want to be an engineer? Like, that's what Tony Stark is. He's an engineer. And so I taught him about Elon Musk, and like, so he's watching Elon Musk, and he's, well, how did you do that? Oh, I don't know. Let's find out. And so we go and find out together, and I make sure that he, even if I do know something, I'll always try to get, like, I'll always try to model the process of being okay with not knowing and figuring it out. And so sometimes we'll just figure it out and like persevere and not give up. And other times we'll, go online and look up the solution, and, so that he understands like all the different processes. And, he's a really smart kid. Like, you ask him, why does the stock market go up? And he says, hope. Why does the stock market go down? Fear. So that's right. When do you buy? When people are afraid. That's right. Like, so he's actually getting a 10% return on his stock portfolio, which is pretty great. And yeah, he like, we're big on you never say can't. That's always been a thing since he was a baby. He's allowed now, because he understands the concept, he's allowed now to say can't yet. But before that, he wasn't even allowed to say can't. He was just allowed to say things like, it's difficult, or it's hard, or things like that. And he needed to learn to say can't yet, because when he went to school, his teachers would say can't, and he'd go, oh, you said a dirty word, right? And they're like, what? And they're like, no, I said can't, and he's like, and he's like, you're not allowed to say that, And so I said, like, well, yeah, I said, some people say can't, but then what you should say is yet. I can't yet, and then he's like, oh, okay. Like, it was this like taboo thing. So he started learning to do that. And it's funny because later we were playing tag, and he yelled, you can't yet catch me. Which I love. I thought that was really funny.
No, that's amazing, man. It cracks me up because I literally was having this conversation with my 3.5-year-old last night. He said he couldn't do something. He said, I can't do that. And I was just like my mind blew. And I was just like, the first time that he's actually said he can't to me. And I was just like, no, buddy, that's not what we say in our home. You can do anything. You can do anything. Like, that's a word that we don't say. We can figure it out. And I even talk about in my book that I curse quite often, but I don't see that as a bad word. I don't see those as bad words. But if you say that I hate you, or that you're stupid, or I can't, now you've just cursed at me, and it is now at a point where that's a bad word. And so it's something that it's all about perspective, with understanding the language that we use for ourselves and the people around us.
Yeah.
And so it sounds like you're very conscious about the language that you use.
Yes. Yeah. I
especially as an author, I'm sure.
Yeah, it probably helps, but I've always been pretty audio-centric. So, like, I've always been aware of the songs that I listen to, because I view them very much as programming. There's I think it's Nicki Minaj, and she has a song that is, I'm a stupid hoe, and she says it like 500 times or something, just like on loop. And I'm like, really? Like, that's like, I'm sure she's an amazing artist and everything else, but like, that's really irresponsible as a message to send out on loop into people's subconscious. Yeah, like, I don't align with that. I think that when you have a platform like that, it's your responsibility to, at the very least, have some kind of Yeah, some kind of growth. But again, that's my C3 Gus, right? As G is mine, you know.
I mean, obviously you follow the same person.
Yeah.
So that dude is phenomenal in the way of the integrity of he can buy an island, yet he spends all of his time trying to help people execute and manifest their goals so that the world is a better place with growth mindset and emotional intelligence. He doesn't have to. He has
I would
infinite
argue
amount of
that he
money.
does. I would argue that he does have to, because buying your own island does not fulfill your C3 Gus at high levels. It doesn't, right? You don't grow. And nature hates things that don't grow. It usually will make them get pruned or they die, right? And that's why so many people die after they retire. You know, their nature kind of notices and goes, "Oh, you're not doing anything for the collective anymore. We don't need you anymore." You know, and that's so I think that, you know, he certainly could have, you know, relaxed and maybe written a book or, you know, something like that. Like, you know, he doesn't have to do what he does, but he does have to do something, I think. And somebody like him who, you know, Tom is fascinated with scale. He wants to impact as many people as possible. And he's addicted to the pursuit of mastery. And that is mastery is one of those moving goalposts. Whenever you think that you're even getting close, you realize, much like a rainbow, it has moved alongside you, and it is always out of reach, which is, yeah, a good thing to have, I think, because it keeps you young.
So I'm curious about that. That is a subject that I have been pondering and meditating on within this week. Is that I'm about to release my first book, and I'm at the end of this month I'm releasing an NFT project, and I've been working at this for a long time to be the human being that I am today. I'm very happy with where I'm at. From 6 years ago, my best friend passed away, and I changed my whole entire life, the direction of my life, my thought process, my belief systems, the actions I take on a daily basis for my routine to get me different results. I'm at a space where I'm very happy with where I'm at, and I'm releasing something that's really I'm passionate about and I worked really hard to execute on. And yet I feel so far away of where I think that I'm going. And so you've released 3 books that is a phenomenal execution on your part, yet you're writing 3 more and you have a bigger goal in mind. How do you balance the execution of what you have accomplished and basking in the gratitude and the accomplishment of it, and at the same time having the drive to grow more, learn more, develop more, and continue the same discipline to execute on your bigger goal at hand?
I break it down into, what are the habitual actions I would need to do the thing I want to do? So every time I've gone to a new martial arts school, the head instructor asks, like, what do you want? Like, why are you here, right? And my answer's always been the same, is to be able to kick your ass. That's it. That's why I want to be here. I'm coming here so I can kick your ass. And once I can, then we'll talk. But until then, you got me. I'll be here, student, for as long as that takes. And I'm quite happy to say that I've done it a few times. But like, because poor is the teacher whose student is not surpassing, right? If you have made 40 years of mistakes, you should be able to teach me in 10 years your 40 years worth of mistakes. 4 years if you're an exceptional teacher, but typically it takes about a decade to get there. And plus they're aging, so I mean, if nothing else, they'll get slower. And I take the same stance with Tom. Tom is a hell of a pace car. He moves so fast, and he is obsessed. But he takes 10 minutes to get out of bed, so I take 10 seconds. He listens at 2x, so I listen at 4x. So just those 2 things, I'm gaining on it. Not, any reasonable increment, but, 10 minutes, well, 9 minutes and 50 seconds, per day, over the span of a decade, it'll add up. And so that's kind of my stance is I just sort of go, what do I have to do habitually to get where it is I want to go? I think a lot of people with like fitness goals or anything like that, they try to go right away to 1,000%. And they go like, I want to lose 80 pounds in a month. And you go, okay, you will probably die. Like that is not sustainable, right? And then after you lose that 80 pounds, even if you manage to do it, guess what? They're coming right back because you have not established like a lifestyle. But if instead you just go, what are the habitual actions I need to take to maintain a healthy body? And say you're 400 pounds overweight, right? What are the healthy actions you need to take to maintain a healthy body? You go, okay, probably some portion control if you're 400 pounds overweight, but also you would need to be moving every day, right? And what that means is move until you get sweaty. Okay, cool. So when you're 400 pounds, that might just be getting out of bed, right? That might be moving until you're sweaty. It might be doing isometrics or one of those TENS machines where it tenses your muscles for you, or whatever, right? But then eventually, when you are 300 pounds overweight, it's the same rule. Move until you're sweaty. Portion control. Move until you're sweaty. Portion control. And like that's it. You would naturally, that scales over time. Everything scales over time. If you practice smoking, you will get really good at it. If you practice watching TV, you will get really good at it. If you practice writing, you'll get really good at it. If you practice, I don't know, cross-country skiing, you'll get really good at it, right? Whatever you practice, you get better at. So just figure out on what timeline you want your goal and how many hours per day that equates to. Like if I wanted to write a book every decade, I could probably write for about an hour a day and that'd be fine. But I want to write a book every year. So that takes about 8 hours a day. Okay. So like, that's it. And just be honest with yourself. If you don't want to do 8 hours a day, that's okay. But then don't say you're going to write a book a year. Write a book every 2 years or 3 years or whatever, right? Everybody knows their own limits and their own time allocation, and just be honest with yourself. So, yeah.
So I'm curious, writing 8 hours a day, what does that look like for you? Because as someone that just wrote a book this year, I know that some days I was twiddling my thumbs some of the time that it was supposed to be my 8 hours of writing. And then there's some days where everything was like flowing out of me. Like I was just the vessel and everything flowed through me. So
Totally.
like, what does that look like? Because you've been writing a lot longer than me, and so much more consistently than I have. You've developed your routine and practices. So what does your typical day of writing look like?
So it changes based on the season. So in the early season, it is figuring out what's going to happen, and kind of laying out the book. And that didn't used to be the case. I used to be 100% discovery writer versus an architect writer, but I have migrated now, so I'm much more.
So when you
50-50.
say discovery writer, is it more of you have the end goal at mind and you discover kind of the way to get there as you're writing?
Yeah,
and the architect is that you already have the building blocks towards your story mode?
Yeah, I would say that a discovery writer, a pure discovery writer, would usually just create a character and a situation, and then they would just write from there. So, you are an elf and you are trapped in a jail cell and you don't remember who you are. Go, right? And you just go like that. Very D&D, very just like improvisational, like I wonder what's going to happen. And I still write that way, but now the situations which will occur are now more thought out. And that comes from kind of maturing a little bit as an author and figuring out that I need to know how things are. I need to know the fixed points in time, the things that have to happen. And my editor laughs because we'll have this amazing layout, and then I'll tell him like, so, that thing that we thought the character would do? He goes, yeah. Turns out they didn't do it. And he's like, yeah, you're the author. And I'm like, yes. Yes, but the characters have a mind of their own, and it turns out that when I was writing it, that he didn't do that. And then he's like, "Well, that's messing up like all the things." I'm like, "Yeah, sorry about that." So yeah, that is the discovery author in me, where I have to be genuine to the characters, and I process out loud. So I also uh, uh, I would call out myself like a method writer, in that I feel the emotions of the characters that I'm writing, um, and as a result, they surprise me when I am writing their stories. I go, "Oh yeah, no, like this would really like make this character angry. Like he would not do the thing I thought he would do. He's just gonna flip out, like do this whole thing." And I'm like, "Oh no, this is gonna totally mess up my plot line. Like, what's gonna happen?" And yeah, I don't always know. Uh, and yeah, there's been a few times where I'm like, "Geez, he might not make it. I don't know. We'll see." So, yeah.
Dude, I'm honestly super curious. That framework that you've developed to writing your books,
Mm.
could you also create that same template for life in a sense?
What a cool idea. Um, the template that I
So as
use.
in the sense of the architect type, which is that you're building it all along, that you have the structure, or you're just building along the way, or a balance between the two. Like if you're able to put that in a template for someone to use, what it means to create a big goal in their life and to execute on it, could you somehow uh, sum that up in a way of the same template? Because I hear that in a way that I reflect in my life of how I build intentionally the goals that I want to execute on. So I'm curious your thoughts on that.
What a great question, Jonathan. It's an interesting idea, though. Could you? I guess you kind of could lay out your life. You could uh, set your goals. The ending of your book, so to speak. Um, Tony Robbins does something he calls the Dickens method, as in Charles Dickens, and he says, like, imagine your death and what you want people to say about you, and then work backwards from there. Right. So if he was, a really generous, really kind, really giving person, okay. So now set in your schedule, set times to do things that are generous, kind, and giving. Right. So you go, okay, how often do I want to work at the soup kitchen? Right. I want to do that once a month. Okay, cool. When? On Sundays. Great. Right. So the third Sunday of every month, you go down to the soup kitchen and you work, and then that's it. Now it's a habit. You just do that, and now when you go to that tombstone, people should say that, and you go, okay, I want them to say more than that, though. Oh, okay, cool. What else do you want them to say? That he was a great father, and he was loving, and he was kind. Okay, well then I better schedule time to be a great father, loving and kind. He was always there to surprise me. Okay, well then I better schedule in some surprising for people, right? And you just kind of work backwards. Something that I do is I break the C3 gusts, because there's 6 of them, into months. So every month I take about an hour to brainstorm, how can I increase, and then one of those needs, right? Certainty, connection, contribution, growth, uncertainty, significance in everybody's life. Not just, and I start with like my family, then I go to my friends, then I go to like business associates, then I go to enemies and competitors. And I think, how can I increase whatever, certainty or connection or whatever, in all those people's lives? And I just sort of brainstorm it out. And then I schedule all my ideas, because I get like, let's call it 200 ideas. I'm not going to do them all today, right? So I schedule them out throughout the next couple of years sometimes. And then I always obey my schedule. And if it pops up and it says, give Jonathan a hug today, and you go, oh, all right, I gotta go find Jonathan and give him a hug today, because apparently this is something the smarter me, when the scheduling me, he figured this out at some point, that it's like the right idea to do. And so yeah, I just always listen to my schedule. If it tells me to do a sit up, I guess I have to do a sit up.
And that's pretty amazing to me. That it seems like you've built this level of patience in your life to be able to think about something and put it in your schedule for maybe a couple months ahead of time, or maybe even a year. That takes a lot of patience to not just do it right now. And
Mm.
same thing with writing your book. Like, you, I mean, wouldn't it be nice for you to just release all of them right now to see what happens? Like it's like there's this instant satisfaction in our society today, and you've developed this delayed gratification in the process of it, and you've fallen in love with the process. Obviously, it's amazing to see. So that's just a cool observation I see about you, Ono. But I'm curious, a little bit about that. You used to be a karate instructor, so you've been a physical human being for, it sounds like, a part of your life, and yet now you're using the creative side to write and be an author in that way. So in that, how have you been able to develop the balance between more of a physical type of person and a creative type of person? Because again, I hope to help people with practical spirituality, which means how do you logically execute on your dreams or visions? Because one's a soft skill, one's a hard skill. So it seems like you've been able to execute on that in your life. What kind of insights do you have about that?
I'll have two answers. Pre-COVID and post-COVID answer. The pre-COVID answer is find something that is physical that hits your C3 guys at 8 and above. And for me, that's martial arts. I love martial arts. If I have a class to go to, it is difficult for me to come up with a situation that would stop me from going. Like I'd really have to, like, okay, your house is on fire and you have to stay and put it out. Like it would have to be like a pretty impressive thing. And I was so addicted to going to martial arts classes that because it hit everything, right? The certainty, right? You know that it's going to be a great class. You know that the students are going to be there. All the people are awesome. They're working together towards awesome things in awesome ways. I mean, it's just the best possible environment that you can be in, right? Connection. You love all of your classmates. You love your instructors. Some of my best friendships have all come from martial arts, either students or fellow instructors or whatever, right? Contribution. I love to teach. Even if I'm in a class with somebody, I can always find some way of improving the person that I'm with, right? Growth, right? You're trying to get better at martial arts, right? It's like literally a class, right? Uncertainty. You never know what you're going to do, especially in a sparring situation, which is my favorite thing on earth, right? When you're sparring with somebody else, you have to be completely present. You have to be completely focused on that situation, and it's a moving meditation for me. And significance. I mean, you get to punch and kick, and you look cool, and everything else, right? So it hit everything at high levels for me. So my advice for that is find something that you can get addicted to that is good for you, and you never have to work out. That is, I used to say, like, going to the gym for me is like going to the library and lifting all the books up and down. I don't get it. Like, what is martial arts? You get to read the books and exercise at the same. It doesn't even feel like exercise. It's like swimming, right? Swimming is not exercise. Swimming is fun, right? You swim around, you have a blast, and afterwards you're really hungry and you don't know why. It's because you've been exercising for 2 hours, right? But like martial arts is the same thing. It doesn't feel like exercise. It just feels like fun to me. And for some people that's yoga or whatever, right? But yeah, that's my pre-COVID answer. Post-COVID is a lot harder. Post-COVID, you need to transition from willpower to integrity, because for me, I do not like exercising. I don't. It's boring. I don't like doing it. It's not fun. There's other things that I could be doing with my time that are more productive and enjoyable, and it used to take willpower to do. And so I developed this system actually for my students a long time ago, and I implemented on myself. And what it is I call it the sticky note strategy. So what you do is you put a sticky note somewhere in your house, and somewhere where you won't see it all the time. Just like, in front of your sink or in a hallway or something like that. Not on your computer monitor or something like that. Something, out of the way. And you put one exercise on it. Something simple like a calf raise or a squat or a jab or whatever. And the rule is every time you see that sticky note, you do the exercise. Every time. And what will happen is you will catch yourself debating with yourself. Well, I just saw that. Did I really just see it again? Yes. Yes, you did. Well, my friends are over. Do I have to do it right now? Yes. Yes, you do. But I'll look silly. Yes. Yes, you will. Right? And so it just becomes this, you do not negotiate. Right? We do not negotiate with terrorists. Right? We do not negotiate. And it teaches you that when you see the thing, you do the thing. And I was talking earlier about how I always listen to my schedule. The reason is that the guy who does my schedule is way smarter than the guy reading the schedule, right? When I read the schedule, I'm like, no, 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 I'm pretty sure ice cream sounds way better than doing push-ups. But unfortunately, the smart guy made and I know that the guy who made that is way smarter than the guy who's reading it. So I just go, all right, I guess I got to do it. So, God help me if somebody else gets their hands on my schedule. I'm sorry, but it said I had to do it. He's got a gun. So hopefully nobody ever gets a hold of my schedule because I just listen to it. And that comes to do not negotiate with yourself. The sticky note thing is the best way I've found to do that, because you don't lie to yourself. Don't lie to your kids. Don't lie to the people that you love. You should love yourself. So don't lie to yourself.
Yeah, no, I love that a lot. In my book, I have 18 different superpowers, which represents internal values or faculties, right? So integrity is actually one of them, because how you do anything is how you do everything.
Yes.
So if you're able to do the little things, the micro things really well, you don't even have to think about the macro things. It's obvious to you because you practice it every single day. And if you're able to execute on a single day at a very high level, you don't have to worry about anything else in your life. Like, you're going to have a beautiful, high executed life. But people don't understand that. They want all these, benefits and all these results right now. But that's not what it means to plant an apple tree gestation period. Right. And so I really do want to acknowledge your patience, your integrity, because since I've known you, it's something that I've always looked up to you, is that you're very consistent and you have high integrity in the things that you do and the message that I've heard from you as well. And so there's one other thing that I really think that I look up to you in, and is your learning ability. Tom Bilyeu has this equation that says information in equals information out.
Totally.
And so you're someone that I look up to is because you listen to your auditory information at 4x, right? And I'm someone that does it at 2x. And people are like, oh, how do you do that? Well, you don't do it on day one. It's first, can you retain information at 0.5? Like, can you listen to information and integrate it into your life? Because it's not about how much you know, it's how much you integrate and embody in your life. That makes a difference in your world, your family, your relationships, your finances, everything. Integration of knowledge. And so at the same time, you can only solve a certain amount of problems with the information in your head. So if you ingest as much information as you can, it gives you a little bit more information to synthesize different solutions. And so in that, you are a very quick learner. So one of the areas that I have noticed is that you've been in more of a financial investor in about the last 1.5 to 2 years or so, and you've had some amazing results in that. When you are learning new things in your life, so a new space right now is Web3 development, is NFTs, is cryptocurrency, is the metaverse, is virtual reality, augmented reality, all these weird things that are supposed to be in the future, but they're here right now. And we're not really sure if we want to dive into them.
Yeah.
It's a new space. It's a new subject. What do you do when you learn a new subject? How do you develop that learning ability?
So the first thing I would say is you must get the app, the Chrome extension, Video Speed Controller. That is a game changer, because you will plateau at 2x forever, because you'll constantly be, like on YouTube, you have to tell it to go to 2x. So it's kind of like driving on the highway and then, oh, school zone. And then, okay, highway again. Oh, school zone. And the ads come out in 1x, and you can't skip over them. And so it slows your mental process down. Whereas Video Speed Controller remembers the speed at which you were listening to previously. So your default speed becomes 2x. And you can increase it in incredibly small increments. So it could be like 2.01x, 2.02x, 2.03x. And because that becomes the default speed, it's just like weights. You don't even, oh, like a 10-pound weight, okay, right? But the first time you lifted a 10-pound weight, it was heavy, right? And so that's the thing, is it just becomes your standard. So that's the first thing, is if you want to take in information quickly, train your algorithms with, train your listening speed first with video speed controller. The next thing I would recommend is training your algorithms. So YouTube is unaware that I like Ryan George, who, by the way, is a hilarious guy. He's really funny on YouTube. Definitely watch him. But YouTube doesn't know that. I have to search him. YouTube only knows that I'm an investor. In fact, they're pretty sure I'm obsessed, because the only thing I watch on YouTube in regular logged in mode is investment stuff. I go to incognito for anything else. So as a result, YouTube becomes a university. It teaches me everything that I want to know. There's no cute cat videos. There's no movie trailers. There's no talk shows. It's just investment stuff. It's all stock stuff, right? And as a result, it becomes one of the greatest universities on the planet. Of all the greatest minds, the people who start YouTube channels are incredibly passionate, incredibly focused individuals. That's why they're doing it, right? It's their jam. Most people who start things on YouTube, they don't start doing it for the money, because there's no money in it in the beginning, right? It's because they're really good at it that they eventually make money. But in the beginning, there's not. So that means that they're incredibly passionate about it. So if you find somebody who's like, I've been following, Tesla for, 10 years, and I know everything about them and all that stuff, right? You're listening to them at, 2x, 3x, 4x, whatever, and you're getting all of their information that they've distilled down into these little 20-minute videos, which for you are a lot less, and you can get all that information. And whatever you're looking up constantly, you will become an expert in very quickly. And the faster you can listen, the faster you will become an expert. I was listening to 42 hours a day, do that math, 42 hours a day of content when I wanted to learn investing, right? Because I was listening to about 16 hours at about 3x.
42 hours a day and a 24-hour a day period.
Yep.
Like, people need to understand, like, let that sink in for a second.
Yeah.
42 hours of content in a 24-hour day. And I guarantee Ona wasn't listening to content 24 hours a day.
No.
That is insane. And the thing is that people that's listening, for myself, when I listen to 4X, it's like literally chipmunks. It is literally chipmunks, but it's a muscle that can be developed. So I listen to 2X, 1.5 at the minimum. I can't even listen to 1X anymore. It's like, why are you talking in slow? Even Tom Bilyeu talks fast as fuck, dude.
Yeah.
And I listen to him in 1X and I'm like, dude, you're talking way too slow.
Yeah,
I listen to him at 2X.
Stroke.
It's like more of like a 3X to 4X anyways. But the thing is that it's a muscle, it's developed, it's built. And in that is, tell me the last time you've read a book at 1X and you retained 100% of the information. That's not going to happen, but you might retain 5 to 10%, 2%, 1%, maybe it's 1%. Why don't you just listen to it at 4X and get a 1-point idea of how you can implement the idea of the book or the processes of the book or the course or the YouTube channel that you're watching, and implement it into your life and see what that does. If you can understand a book idea from each book you read, you can change your whole entire direction of your life and everything about it. And so that's what people don't understand, is that it's okay that you don't get every word right. It's just about getting the ideas behind the message that's being spoken.
Well, and I would also put forth that retention goes up as listening speed increases, because you have to focus, right? If you get distracted, you just lost 20 minutes, right? Like if somebody, like if I sneeze, that's like 4 minutes just went by that I'm right. So like
people don't even understand what that is unless they've actually listened to a book on that speed. But literally, you daydream for 30 seconds. That means you've lost multiple minutes of a book, which means multiple concepts and ideas. It's insane. It makes me crack up because I've been there, and it's just like, oh, I need to stop this book altogether because I keep daydreaming because of the ideas I'm learning. I need to take a break so I can process just what I've learned. And that's okay too, is like to understand, to retain the information and sometimes process what you're learning.
Totally. Absolutely. There'll be days where I won't read very much because most of my brain is processing, like you say, just kind of digesting the information that I've had or applying it, or I'm in a privileged position in that because I'm putting mindset into my books, when I am listening to, say, a Tom Bilyeu interview, right? I'm not just listening for myself. I'm also listening for all of the characters in my books. And as soon as somebody says something, I go, oh, Amber could learn that, or oh, Steve could learn that, or Madame Hong could totally say that. That's a really, she would paraphrase it, but like that piece of information is a really good quote for that person to say. And they say that you will do more for others than you will for yourself. One of the things that I teach in my investment course is to take notes for somebody younger than you. And that's not just because I want them to increase the awesome and spread the joy and the knowledge. It's because you'll retain more if you're taking notes for somebody else. And so that's just like a learning trick. And so I'm always taking notes for, I don't even know how many characters, but a lot of characters in my book. And so, I will retain more because more things are interesting. Reticular activating system, right? Our brain automatically filters out, was it like 80%, something like that? Unless you're really fascinated with something. If something is really interesting to you, then you filter out less. And so because I have more sources of interest, I am more interested, which means I retain more. So to answer your question about learning, that's another trick.
Yeah, no, I think that is fascinating. And I hope that people are listening to that. It's the concept of being in a group of, let's say you are the 5 people that you spend the most time with, right? In those 5 people, it's also important to be conscious of who they are, in the sense of, are there individuals that are a little bit better than you, so you're learning from, and a people that are a little bit less as advanced as you as well, because then you're able to be the teacher. So when you're learning, in the sense of you're reading something or taking notes on something and you're doing it for someone else, it's because it's a white belt mentality. It doesn't matter if you're a black belt. A true mastery of anything is that I want to be the best learner I can because I'm here to teach everyone I can of what I know. And I think that is very valuable for people to listen to, is that it doesn't matter where you're at in your life. You're always a beginner in some area. And if you can learn more, you can teach more. And so
with martial arts, I tell people always have 3 training partners at the bare minimum. One who is stronger than you, but slower than you, or less skilled than you, or something like that. Someone who is your size and about your skill level, and someone who is smaller than you but more skilled than you. And so you can win in 3 different ways, you can lose in 3 different ways, and you can teach in 3 different ways, right? When you have a person who is strong but like clumsy or slow or something like that, then you can teach them a lot. And if they get a hold of you, you're in trouble. So it's like a good way to learn there, right? The person who's the same size as you, you're constantly like, he'll be 1% better than you, then you'll be 1% better than him, you'll be 1% better, and it's just like a constant battle. And so that, iron sharpens iron. And the people who are, smaller than you, so that you could physically dominate, but they have way more skill than you, they're going to be teaching you a lot of things. And to them, you are the bigger but slower or not skilled person, right? And so it just trickles down. And like you should always, I think I'm always trying to teach. I'm trying to teach Tom Bilyeu put options, right? Because like he just refuses to learn, and I'm like, dude, like literally, if he had listened to me, he would have made $27 million in like a week. About 2 months ago, I did the math, and I'm like, if you listen to me, you would have made $27 million. He's like, yeah, but it's hard. I'm like, oh. So
dude,
that's.
I can't even imagine though. Like the motherfucker, what does he do all day? Like it's just like he's constantly going, and it's just, I think about that all the time too. Is that the thing is I believe that there's 3 stages of life. Doesn't matter where you're at. We cycle through these seasons, these 3 seasons, and maybe there's more, but it's just a process or a framework that I've been working on. But it's the subtitle of my book. It's Wake Up, Own Your Life, and Manifest Your Ultimate Potential. The first stage is about waking up out of the program, the matrix, the box that you're living in. We're all living in a box that has a specific label on it, or maybe multiple labels, whatever it is. But are you aware of what that is? Your thoughts, your beliefs, your actions. Are you aware of it? And why is this box getting you these results? Well, you wake up towards it. You become aware. And then it comes to owning it. You start doing something different about this box that you're living in, and you want a different box. You put that on there. Now you have different thoughts, different beliefs, different actions. Obviously, it equals different results. And then there's the manifestation of your ultimate potential, which is now you're in a different box and you're receiving the results of this box. But we're in a box still. So that means we need to wake up towards the box, own it, and manifest our potential on another level. And that's how it is on every level, no matter where you're at. And Tom Bilyeu is there no matter where he thinks he is or not. It's whether it's relationship, it's finances, it's purpose, it doesn't matter where it's at. There's an area of our lives that we're blinded towards. It's a white belt mentality that there's always something to learn in. And so sometimes when we're caught up into a certain box, we won't see outside of it because we're stuck in it. So it's a normal trait, but I know that you blocked an hour and a half and we're going a little bit over. So
it's fine.
I mean, the conversation has been, I hope, very enjoyable to you. And I know that people are receiving a lot of amazing insights and value from this conversation. So I'll finish it up with a very last question. But before I do, I want to also highlight, I love the book Stealing Fire by Stephen Kotler and Jamie Will. And it's all talking about flow state and how do you get into that state of being, because it's a state of being. And when you talk about karate,
yes,
I'll tell you, there's a different type of flow state when you talk about that. And it really just lights me on fire. I can see it in your eyes, the way that you love it, the way that you talk about your students, the processes of it. And it's really cool to see you in your flow state, which I would say is karate that probably has created a set amount of values in your life that you carry everywhere that you go. Again, how you do anything is how you do everything. So before I ask the last question, I did want to understand, what are the top values that you have actually taken from karate that you implement into your everyday life?
Hard to break it down into small pieces. Let's see. Martial arts teaches you humility in that everybody sucks at it when you start. And it teaches you compassion because you teach it to other people. So it makes you okay with making mistakes, and it gets you really good at teaching others how to either avoid those mistakes or at least overcome them themselves. Perseverance, because it's really, really hard. Presence, because if you don't have presence, you get punched in the nose. So you need to have a present mindset. You need to be absolutely focused in the moment. It gives you a real world example of how you are the closest people that you surround yourself with, because you get to witness it in real time. You get to see your body composition change to match those of the people around you. You get to see your mindset change. You get to see the anorexic woman with the abusive husband gradually become more and more like the professional kickboxer that she's training with. And you get to watch her, not just her body composition change, but like her entire her self-worth, her sense of being. Everything changes. It teaches you that the power of posture and awareness of your body, that it is very, very difficult to be depressed and have a powerful posture, and the kinesiology of martial arts is the antithesis of depression. So if you are ever really sad, try martial arts first. It teaches you so much. It teaches you the ability to project your worth or your energy. It gives the ability to focus what you are into a specific moment. It teaches you how to be calm in a stressful situation. It teaches you to remember to breathe. That's a hard lesson. It takes a while, but it teaches you to remember to breathe even when you're stressed. It teaches you to not freeze under stress. So you still can fight or flight, but you don't freeze. I'm sure there's other things, but those are the things that come to mind. It is the single thing that I would recommend to every human on the planet to take martial arts. If there was a better thing to do, I would recommend it, but I have not found it. It is better than yoga. Yoga teaches you contemplation, and it teaches you to focus on your body, but it does not teach you to change that focus, to do something different. Yeah, maybe dancing. I could see dancing maybe having the same effect as martial arts, like complicated dancing, not just I don't know. I don't know enough about dance. I'm terrible at dancing, but at this point in my life.
No, man. It teaches so much. In history, you can see in every culture that they utilize some sort of physical action, such as wrestling in Greeks and in martial arts in the Asian culture. And then you have yoga or dance or all of these different physical actions that are very conscious with the movement. You contemplate, you problem solve, you manipulate body weight. And it's, to me, practical spirituality. It's understanding the balance between using your mind, solving problems, flowing with your partner in whatever way that is, whether it's dance or when it's wrestling or martial arts, is intuition. It's brute strength.
Oh yeah, right. It also teaches you to defend yourself, which is
defend yourself.
Really
absolutely
useful.
Stand up for yourself, not be bullied.
Yeah.
You know, there's sticking up for other people. There's so many valuable lessons in understanding the balance between being someone that is, you know, an introvert and an extrovert. How do you balance the two? You need to learn both. It's very important for both aspects to be understood by a human being. And so it sounds like that martial arts is a very huge teacher in that. So for my last question, it's more of a dual question, but for a Heroes Academy, there's a few different aspects to this. Is that one, we want to promote everyday heroes, people that are actually going after their goals, actualizing on their potential, doing what they love every day. They are everyday heroes, and they're making a difference in the world, whether it's being an amazing father like you are, Ono. Like, I love the way that you teach your son. I'm very much in the same aspect of, I want my son to be a creator, not a consumer. So to, you know, read, learn coding, learn this new world, learn investing. You're a creator. You're not a consumer. You know, it's a new way of leading in that space, right? That's an everyday hero right there for our future generations. It's being a good husband. It's being a good entrepreneur. It's writing books that is going to make a difference in human beings' minds and hearts and souls. So that's an everyday hero, right? So I promote them, but also a Heroes Academy wants to build them. So I want the people to listen to the stories to understand how they can implement these things into their lives. So I'm curious, what does an everyday hero mean to you? And how does one embody that type of mindset?
See the world the way you want it to be. Take responsibility for making it that way.
So see the world how you want it to be. So create a vision or a goal of what you want to execute, and then start taking action in that way.
Yeah, make it your responsibility. Um, you know, if you don't like the idea of people starving, then solve the problem. That's it. Just solve it. And if you don't have enough power to solve it, that's fine. Just move towards solving it. And yeah, just pick a problem. There's lots. You know, modern day hero for me is Elon Musk. The dude is the most useful human I've ever seen. He dedicates the entirety of his existence is dedicated towards saving mankind effectively. You know, he sees all the problems, everything from there's too much traffic to you know, the human race is going to kill itself, and he just goes okay, and he solves the problem. So yeah, that's my idea of a hero, is someone who sees the world the way they want it to be, and then makes it happen.
Yeah. Yeah, it sounds like manifesting your ultimate potential, which is absolutely, I agree with 100%. So the second part of that question is, how does one start to embody that type of mindset? So, in another way of putting it, what are the first steps for someone to start becoming the hero of their own life?
Heroes solve a problem. The difference between uh, Superman and, I don't know, Jimmy Olsen is the size of problem that he solves. Now, granted, Superman has some innate talents that make him uh, better suited to solve, you know, things like asteroids coming at the Earth or whatever. You know, Jimmy Olsen would have a hard time doing that. But that's part of it. Is you pick a problem, and I really think that that's where it starts. Is for some people that might be a really might start off as a really negative path, right? Like, what really pisses you off? What makes you angry? For me, it was not that way. And I know that Tom Bilyeu, he teaches like he calls it your animus. And it's, for him, a lot of dark energy, you know, like what makes you mad? What makes you, you know, angry? And for me, that's kind of like a Batman approach, right? And I think that within all of us, there is that Batman and that Superman. And I've always been more drawn towards the Superman, the Tony Robbins, the make the world better and have a great time doing it, and increase the awesome. That's my thing, right? And I'd say that Batman is more about decreasing the suck, and there's nothing wrong with that, but it is a different path. And I am fascinated with Batman. I have Superman shirts and I have Superman belt buckles. I got, because that's how I want to see myself. But my Windows background and my walls and everything else, it's all Batman, because Batman is my coach. I don't see myself as Batman, but Batman has very high standards. And my background, it says, with great responsibility comes great power, which is a little bit of a mix mash of Spider-Man's quote. The opposite is also true. With great power comes great responsibility, but I choose to think of it as with great responsibility comes great power. And then underneath that, it says, raise your standards. And that doesn't work coming from Superman. Superman is a symbol of hope. He is what you aspire to be. But he's not the guy who says, get your ass out of bed. You said you would. Batman's the guy who will break your thumbs if you don't listen, right? And so I think we need both of those. So Batman is my coach, but Superman is my avatar.
I really love that, dude. Like honestly, that hits me really hard because I'm the same way as you. I'm more the Jedi. I am not on the dark side. I don't want to use the dark side. I know there's value in it. I've had very dark moments in my life that has brought me more awareness to my purpose than anything else. I see so much value in it. And that is Batman, is that he lives in that space and he's never given up, but it fuels him to be the best innovator, creator. He even diminishes his real persona of Bruce Wayne to be this bachelor, multimillionaire, playboy, and yet he's actually the most highest integrity human being that you'll ever meet.
Yes.
He's willing to diminish his true identity, his identity that everyone sees, so that he can be the hero of his own life and everyone else's. So I really value that perspective of what Batman offers versus Superman, because I'm the Captain America persona, the Rogers and the Tony Stark, type of innovator using your mind. But that was a really cool perspective, and I appreciate that, Ono.
My pleasure.
And if people want to buy your book or they want to follow your journey, where can they find you?
The best place is just to look up the Shard Chronicles. There's 3 books: Awakening, Aftermath, and Redemption. They're all on Amazon.com or Amazon.ca, wherever you happen to live. They're finally available in Australia. They took forever. So yeah, you can find them there. You can also find my website, ononorthey.com, ononorthey.com. I mean, I am on all the socials. You can feel free to follow me on those too. But honestly, the books is where all your value is going to be. My Instagram is not all that exciting.
Yeah, man. Well, I appreciate you, and I encourage anybody that's listening, get the books, support, Ona and his mission. If you found value in this conversation whatsoever, I know I have, and I mean, he's someone that I've been looking up to for the last few years, because when we talk about what it means to be a learner, it's having someone a little bit ahead of you, someone a little bit behind you, so you can teach them, but also learn from someone. And Ono is that person that's actually above me. And so I look up to him. He's an awesome leader. He lives with integrity. I've been watching him for years, and he's very consistent with learning, sharing what he learns, and helps anyone that's actually asking for help. So I highly value that in a person. So thank you so much, Ono. Is there any last words that you want to say to the listeners?
It's been such an honor, Jonathan. Thank you for having me. Last words, I'll go with increase the awesome or decrease the suck.
Dude, okay, so that won't be the last words. That was the question that I wanted to ask you a little bit ago. What does it mean to represent increasing the awesome? What is the awesome?
If you go to a garage sale and you see a little kid and he is trying to sell one of his, lemonade or toys or whatever, you could ignore him. You could go and buy from him, or you could actually connect with him, and you can talk with him, and you can try to coach him and get him to teach you, get him to sell you something a little bit better, and go, no, say it like this, no, like, I'll buy more if you tell me they're organic. Sell these cookies. Like your mom said that they're organic. You didn't say they're organic. Tell me they're organic. Well, what is that? Right? There's little moments of there's magic moments everywhere that you can facilitate. When you're in the grocery store lineup, say hi and then say their name. They're wearing a name tag, right? Say their name. Make a joke. Make them laugh. When you go to a restaurant, be nice to the waitress. Be nice to them. Just increase the awesome. There's a certain amount of awesome, and you should be a light. So everywhere you go, you make whatever it is you're doing better. You contribute to the world. You C3 Gus. You increase people's certainty, their connection, their contribution, their growth, their uncertainty, their significance, whatever. You know, when Visa or something, I have to call like a Visa company or whatever, you know, some problem. I always make them laugh, and most of the time they're not very happy at their jobs. And you know, they'll say like, "Is there anything else I can help you with?" And I'd be like, "Yeah, my lawn is really long. Really long. Could you come and mow it?" And there's always this brief pause, and then they burst out laughing, you know, because it's just that one little bit where they go, "That is not what everybody else says," you know, and it just breaks them out of their mold for a second, you know. And yeah, make people laugh, make people cry in a good way, make people smile, teach people, surprise people, increase the awesome. The awesome. Everybody knows what awesome is, right? Like, how was your day? It was awesome. Why was it awesome? Well, this guy came into my store and he did this really weird thing and he made everybody laugh, and you know, you increased the awesome in that person's life. Or decrease the suck, right? You know, soldiers, right? You guys go out and you shoot the bad guys. Like, decrease the suck, right? That is a service. That is a totally different thing, and it takes tremendous sacrifice to do. You know, to be a police officer, oh my God, that is such a hard job. You know, you see the worst of the world every day, and every now and then you get to increase the awesome. You get to make somebody laugh, and you know, help somebody propose or whatever, because you know they asked you to do that or whatever. But for the most part, it's a really dark job. So yeah, just whatever your chosen purpose is, you know, do it well. I guess that's my answer.
Yeah, no, I appreciate one of the superpowers I see that you have is you have a sense of humor, and you're always able to break the ice and have some sort of a break inside of a serious moment that makes you laugh. And that's, you know, pattern, you know, it's shifting up a pattern that is, we're following a certain path with momentum, and then you shift it with a laugh, and that actually makes it stick a little bit more, and you make it more of an impact in that way as well. But also presence is such a superpower of yours, man. You're able to widen the gap between stimulus and response. And in that type of presence where you're able to recognize a moment and execute on that moment and increase the awesomeness in that moment is truly a superpower that more of us can develop. So honestly, thank you so much for your time, Ono. You're amazing, man. And I know this isn't our last conversation, so I look forward to the next interview I get to do with you, man.
Thank you, sir. It was a pleasure and an honor. Thank you.